Welcome to the Flora Sage Podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Walk and Talk episode. Today we're going to talk about the difference between high vibe versus high energy. So, I'm sure we all can relate to and know someone who is super high energy. That person that wakes up, bouncing out of bed, they're going and blowing and going all day long. And they just have mountains and mountains and mountains of energy. And no matter what, they are up for it and they're just going. Now, I'm sure you also know of someone else who every time you see them, every time you hang out with them, you just feel better. You feel more motivated, you feel energized. You just like being in their presence because they just make you feel so alive. That right there is the marked distinction of high vibe versus high energy. Now, the interesting thing is that high vibe people typically are very passionate about what it is that they do. So when they talk to people or talk with people, they get into it. They're very expressive and sometimes very animated in sharing what it is that they do. Many times also, high vibe people will be mislabeled as high energy. I know because this happens to myself all the time. It happens to me all the time. I'm very low energy. Like my perfect day is just chilling on the couch, watching a movie or hanging out in the hammock in my backyard. Yes, I like hiking. I like being active, but only to a certain point. And then I'm good. Like I'm the laziest high vibe person that I know. But often people will say, "Oh my gosh, like I just can't keep up with you. You're just so high energy and yada yada." And I find those comments kind of like bizarre. And typically those people don't really know me. They just see me at an event, or they meet me at the grocery store, or we meet for coffee or something like that. And hello, if I'm having coffee, I'm going to be a little bit more high energy than what I am normally because I'm caffeinated. But in any case, so I bring this up for a lot of reasons. The main reason is so often we see someone, whether it's someone in our regular life or we see someone online, and we put labels on them. We say, "Oh, this person is XYZ." And then because of those labels, we then assume certain things about that person or about each of the people that we've done that with. Well, what these labels do is literally box those people into that particular expectation or expectations based on those labels. So if someone says, "Oh, you're a very high energy person," and then they ask you, "Oh, hey, do you want to go to a 5K hike with me?" And it's, "No, that's a little bit too much." All of a sudden their expectations and their label of you doesn't match up with what you said. So then they start to feel off, like, "Well, wait a minute, what? That's not your jam. What do you mean?" You know what I mean? So, and this happens like all the time, not just with myself, but with so many people. I was just part of a mastermind group the other day, and we were all talking about this topic of being mislabeled based off of people's perception of us because we are online. And so kind of we all were sharing about some of the things that we have experienced and whatnot. And one of the things that came up for every single person in that room was they all labeled us extroverts. And every single one of us identify as an introvert. And I've always said, I am an outgoing introvert. I'm very animated. I'm very passionate about what I do. But I am an introvert through and through. So, but again, when someone hears the word introvert, typically they think someone who's quiet, someone who's shy, someone who is reserved. Now, I am quiet, I am reserved, I am not shy in any way, shape, or form, but I do have to regulate my energy because I am an introvert. And so when I know that I'm going to be doing certain things throughout the day, I conserve my energy so that when I do have to speak on an interview, I have all of my energy. Because for me, when I exude my energy for a certain period of time, typically a couple hours, then I need several hours to recover. On the days that I do my virtual decluttering day, or I do other speaking events or whatever, I prep several days in advance, and then it takes me several days to recover. Now, I've had many people over the years ask me, well, Flora, why do you do those public events, or why do you do those all-day events or whatever? And it's because I have to. I mean, that's just part of my being. It's part of who I am. It's part of my calling to be of service, is to do these events because I know how much of an impact these events create for the people that are, participating in them. So there's this fabulous book that I started to read. I didn't finish the entire thing simply because I loaned it to a friend of mine and I forgot about it after that, but it was called Expectation Hangover. I believe the person who wrote it was Christine Hassler. I'm so sorry that I don't have the name off the top of my head. I will put the link for that book in the show notes. But from what I read of that book, it was how easy it is for us to have expectations of people that we think we know and expectations of people in our life that we do know based off of certain labels and certain things that we assume about that other person. And when those expectations aren't met, then what happens is we get an expectation hangover. And, like I said, I just had to kind of laugh during that mastermind group because every single one of us in that room had experienced some type of expectation hangover from a client, a fellow colleague, from someone who met us, who has been, watching us online. And we really looked at, how can we diffuse these expectations? How can we educate our audiences to let them know who we really are? And several of the people say you can't, because everyone has their own perception of you in their brain and their stories of you based on what they've watched, what they've read, all that stuff. So they have this version of you created in their head, and to challenge that is just not possible. Like, some people just don't accept that someone else is something else than what you think they are. But other people will dig deeper. Other people will read kind of between the lines. Some people will also book private sessions or start coaching with them long term. So then you really get to have a relationship with that person, and then you really get to know them. And that's one of the things that I've discovered with my clients is they're just like, oh my God, you're just like you are in your videos, but better. I'm like, what do you mean better? And they're just like, well, you're so like selfless, and you give so much in every single session, and every time that we talk in Voxer, it's just like I'm talking to a best friend who just happens to be my coach and gives me tough love and gives me strategies and asks me the right questions and really just cracks me open. And it's just so refreshing. And, at first I was a little intimidated, but I'm so glad that I just said, you know what, let's do this, and started working together. And so it's just, again, I love hearing that feedback from people because, we don't know what someone's perception of us is unless we ask, or they make it very, very clear by comments and how they act or react to us. So really give yourself permission this next week to look at the people in your life, look at the labels that you have placed on them, and ask yourself, is this label accurate? Like, where did this label come from? Are they high vibe and high energy, or just high energy, low vibe? Because I got to tell you, I've met really high energy, very low vibe people that are just draining, that I do not ever want to meet again. But then I've also met really high vibe, really high energy people that, you know, I can hang out with for maybe an hour, maybe two, but because I'm an introvert, that's it. I'm tapped out. I gotta bounce. You know what I mean? But then I've also met, and these are typically my friends, those people that are low energy, high vibe people that we just sit in a room and we just feel good. We're just basking in our energy. We're like, yeah, this is good. So I was just going to talk about how to raise your vibe and things like that, but I've done whole classes on that. I could do a separate podcast about that, but I just wanted to share that real quick with you today because, like I said, you know, it's really easy for us to mislabel people and think they are a certain way based off of the little that we know of them, if they're high vibe or if they're high energy. And then we have expectations because of those labels, and we may get disappointed or triggered or feel all kinds of weird feelings because that person doesn't match up with the version of them that we have in our head. So I would encourage you to challenge those thoughts this week and allow yourself to get rid of those labels and see each person for whom they are instead of whom you think they are. And if you don't know, ask. Okay? All right. I hope this serves you. I love you guys. I do have a spot open for private coaching. If you are interested in working with me one-on-one to get to know me further and so that I can get to know you, click the link in the show notes about coaching and we'll see if we're a good fit for each other. And that's it. So I hope this serves you today and I will see you in the next episode. If you're enjoying this content, which I hope you are, and you're applying this knowledge in your life and are seeing results, I would love to hear about your successes. Click the link in today's show notes, share your success story with me so you can help to inspire others. Also, if you've been loving these episodes, it would mean the world to me if you would rate this podcast on iTunes. A 5-star rating is what I always aim for. Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. All links mentioned are in today's show notes.